So I logged off not too long ago, actually. Um, as my mom was telling me the password to her laptop and telling me what to do if she were to die, and that I would need the password to her laptop for all of that information. Uh, I may have pissed her off. I'm not entirely sure. It's been 30 minutes since I last messaged her. And since she last messaged me, she hasn't even looked at the two messages I left. Uh, I may have overreacted. I'm not entirely sure. To me, it was perfectly logical to react the way I did. So I asked her, um, what was bringing this on all of a sudden. Uh, I was like, "Is there something you're not telling me? Like, do you have a disease or something?" And she said she got a head injury, and she was like, "Head injury. I think it's going to be okay, but just in case." And I was like, what happened?" Which I meant to say, "When did this happen?" Luckily, she knew what I was talking about. She said, "Last week, hit a sprinkler pipe hard on the fourth floor stairwell." I was like, "It's been a week. You should be fine." She was like, "No bruising or bump. No bump is bad. Swelled in on inside of bone instead of outside. Head's been hurting on and off. Just got me thinking. Preparation. Never know." My reaction to this was to write a detailed bullet point. Don't go freaking me out if you're not even going to tell me you got hurt in the first place. I was like, geez, now I just need a beer just to calm the fuck down. It may have been an overreaction, but to me, if I ever lost my mom, I'm not going to pull through that at all. I can't imagine a world without her. Um, Without the bubbly, happy mom that I know, the goofy, sometimes scary mother that I know, I a world without her is just not worth it. Um, that is not something I ever want to go through. I would rather die in her place than watch her die. So, of course, my overreaction could have been a lot bigger than that and was going to be. I filtered myself, which was very hard to do. Um, when someone starts talking about death like that to me, the first thing that comes to my mind is, depending on how much I like the person, it could range anywhere from just go and die to what the fuck are you talking about right now? Uh, like, don't tell me any of this stuff unless you know for certain something's going on. I don't want to have to think about any of this. I don't want to have to go through any of this. It may be selfish on my part. I don't want to deal with it. I can deal with just about anything, but if I lose my mom, that's it. I'm done. I will have no will to do anything anymore because she is the only thing in my life that makes me feel like it's worth living. My mom is very charismatic, caring, sometimes overly protective, and a very forward thinker, uh, prepared for just about anything that could pop up at any time. Over the last few years, she's gotten to the point where she won't even go to the doctors anymore. Uh, just that's She has this thing about doctors now, which I understand. I do too. I have issues with doctors. Um, because most of the doctors that I've met are freaking vultures, vampires. I do not like them whatsoever. And so, I mean, I get where she's coming from. But at the same time, if you're going to get an injury like that and then not go and see a doctor to make sure that you're going to be okay, don't fucking tell me about it in the first place. Like, say, if my sister goes and hits her head really hard, the first thing she's going to do is wait. And if she feels like something's off, chances are she's going to go to the doctors. Why? Because she's responsible about her body. Well, at least about the care of her body. Um, so chances are she would go to the doctors and make sure that she's perfectly okay, and then message everyone and be like, hey, if it's something mild or serious, she'll message me and be like, so I hit my head. They're not entirely sure what's going on, but they're going to keep an eye on me. I just wanted to let you know. Bam, done. Easy. I don't worry about it until I get another message about if it's actually more serious than we thought it was. That is the only time that I actually, start worrying. But my mother, on the other hand, got hurt a week ago. A week ago. And didn't bother to tell anybody that she had gotten hurt. So yeah, I'm kind of ticked off about that. Um, Usually, if you get hurt, the first thing you do is you tell those around you that, hey, I stubbed my toe earlier, or I jammed my finger in the door, I hit my head, I fell, stuff like that. You're supposed to tell people around you, that way they can keep an eye on you and make sure that you're fine. Her coming home like a drunk when she was super exhausted, I would have taken her to the doctor if I had known about the head injury, because that could have been a serious issue. She just told me she was tired. She never told me anything about the head injury. Not once. I would have woken up James and been like, we need to take Mama to the doctors now. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. We need to go now. I would have picked her up, put her in the back of the car, and gave James the key to her car to drive her to the hospital. There was, you can't just not tell me anything, just tell me that you're overly tired, and then turn around and start talking about you dying. What's going to happen when you die and all this crap. No. No. Nope. No, thank you. No. Uh, Not gonna happen. will not accept it at all. You die, I kill you. Most people would say that I have a mother complex. Um, that I'm overly protective of my mother, or that I'm too attached to my mother. I haven't been able to actually talk to my mother freely for quite a while. Even during all of the crap that I went through with my two boyfriends and the crap with her mother and everybody else in the fucking world acting like my business is theirs, I have not gotten to actually have a full conversation with my mother. The one time I got to have uh, to actually see her and do something with her was when she came to visit me while I was with Matthew, while I was with my ex. And we went and got clothes and food. That was basically our entire time together. And then when I got back, I was yelled at and beaten, accused of being cheating on him and all this other shit. And then I didn't even get to see her when I had my baby. She never met Sabrina while I had her. That was my first time actually seeing her. I believe my sister got my dogs mixed up. Yes, I'm changing the subject right now. Uh, my sister claims that she had met Nadia once. She never did. Um, the time that I was living in North Carolina with my ex, I'd never gotten to see her. I maybe saw her once. I never had to tell Nadia to go potty. Never. There was only one time that I had to repeat myself, and that was because something startled her. Most likely it was one of the cats. I never really went to investigate it because it was a sound that I was used to. But it surprised her. She's an old dog. Now, the one that I had to repeat constantly to use the bathroom was with Lady. And the only reason that was because one, she was still a puppy, not even a year old, and was easily distracted by everything new. The person uh, had was who had her mother and was giving her puppies away after they were old enough kept them in the house constantly. They didn't get outside free time. So when I took Lady outside, everything was new. The smells were new, the cats were new, everything was new. Um, so a lot of things startled her very quickly. Uh, Not only that, I don't think she was old enough to be away from her mother just yet. And I named her Lady because the way she sat when I first when I first saw the puppies, I picked out one just from staring at them. They were all just sitting around their mother, and Tara was like, pick one that you like. And I immediately spotted her, and I was like, Lady. And she responded instantly to the name. Her ears perked up. And she moved forward. I was like, that one's mine. And the lady was like, okay. She was like, when she's ready, I'll bring her to you. When she brought her to me, I wanted to make sure it was the right one. So at first I told her to set her down. She put her down on the floor and she started sniffing, and then she sat down and she looked up at me and I was like, lady, and she tilted her head and perked her ears. I was like, okay. I was like, yeah, that's her. Because the way she sat was different from the other puppies. It was kind of not really. She sat up, had her paws outward instead of inward. Outward. But one paw was slightly bent more, so it kind of looked like she was lopsided, which was really funny. But her back legs were crossed over each other like a little lady. So, lady, Nadia already had her name. I don't know who had her before we got her. I never thought of changing her name because the name suited her very well. Um, I would say she was about 9 or 10 years old, probably about 8 when we got her, 7 or 8 when we got her. Um, had her for quite a while after that. Believe about 2.5 years. And then maybe 3 years. And then the situation arose to where I couldn't stay there any longer. I needed to get out. And because I was really tight on money, there was no way I could take her with me, which really tore me up. And then a couple of months afterwards, when I was in Washington, I got a call from my ex, and he told me that Nadia had passed. He had called me several times before and told me that uh, she wasn't eating, she wasn't drinking, and that he wanted to put me on speakerphone and talk to her because he was hoping maybe that would get her to eat. I wasn't really thinking straight at the time because I had a lot of things on my plate as well. It made the situation a lot worse because when I started talking to her and she heard my voice, instead of eating or drinking or anything else, she got up and started looking for me. And when she couldn't find me, she plopped down to where she last was and would not move, would stop responding to her name, was getting weaker and weaker. I tried everything to get her. Losing that dog was harder than anything else in my life because she was the only thing keeping me alive during those 5 years with that jerk. So when I heard she died, it broke my heart. I still have a few videos of her while she was alive, of her trying to get into fortune cookies and just the cute little attitude that she has. Um, just everything about that dog I absolutely loved. Now, I am going to say this. I don't think people should be more attached to dogs than they are to people. But in my experience, dogs aren't going to lie to you. Dogs aren't going to betray you in any sort of way. No matter what I went through, anytime I got home from work, I could always come back and say, "I'm home, Nadia," and she'd come scampering from wherever she was to welcome me home. I would walk in the door and, "I'm home," and hear her little feet just slide through the kitchen as she's trying to get to me as fast as she can to welcome me home. The same with Lady. Anytime I got home from whether it was just a walk or going next door, whatever it was, she was right there. I didn't get the opportunity to properly train Lady because the people around me would rather complain that they can't do something than actually doing something. If my friend's mother wasn't living there, I would have been able to keep Lady for a longer period of time and figured something out. She had separation anxiety. The best way to feel that, to fix that, not feel it, I had a method in mind that I was working on. But every time she started whining when I left the house, they would start complaining. Now, I understand she's a very loud dog. She's got bloodhound and chocolate lab mixed. So she can be very, very loud. But again, it's a work in progress. She was still a puppy. Anyway, I don't know if I overreacted. It could have been an overreaction, could have not been an overreaction, but I was just mad. I just don't understand why she would bring that up all of a sudden and not tell me she got hurt in the first place. Anyway, I hope you guys have a beautiful morning, evening, afternoon, night, whatever time of the day it is for you. And I'll do another video maybe a couple days from now. Memorial service for my mom's husband's dad is Monday, so I may not get around to another video for a while. Anyway, I'll see you guys when I get the chance. Bye.